In the last lesson, we looked at solving multi-step equations, and we are going to build on that concept today. Our first problem says write an equation and solve. So we have 14 less than 3/4 a number is -8. So I have less than, I know I'm going to need a negative sign in there somewhere. 3/4 is going to tell me a fraction. So I have 3/4 a number. So I can use any variable, but I'm going to use x. So I have 3/4 a number. And we have 14 less than that. So 3/4 a number minus 14 is equal to -8 because the word is means equal. So let's go back and read that and make sure we're okay before we solve it. 14 less than 3/4 a number, so that's this part right here, 14 less than 3 times a number is means equal -8. So now I can just solve it. Here's my wall. I want to isolate my variable. My x is right here, so I'm going to add 14 to both sides. And I get 3/4 x is equal to +6. I still need to isolate that variable, so I can either divide both sides by 3/4. Using my calculator, I can multiply by the reciprocal, so I'll just multiply by the reciprocal. This cross cancels, so I have x is equal to, and that gives me 24/3, which is 8. So my answer there is 8. The next problem says if 2m minus 6 equals 50, what is the value of 14m plus 1? So this actually has two different parts. The first thing I'm doing is I'm going to solve for m in the original equation because I'm going to need that information. But my final question is, what's the value of 14m plus 1? So I can't find that out until I find out what the value of m is in the first part. So here's my first equation. 2m minus 6 equals 50. Here's my wall. Add 6 to both sides. I have 2m is equal to 56. Divide both sides by 2. M is equal to 28. So now I'm not done. I don't just circle 28 and say that's it. I'm finished answering the question, because the question actually says what is the value of 14m plus 1. So now I have to take my value for m, which is 28, multiply that by 14, and add 1. So when I use my calculator, 14 times 28 plus 1 gives me a final answer of 393, which answers my final question. Number 3 is a similar problem. It says if 10f plus 25 is equal to 105, what's the value of 72 divided by f? So that's what my final question is. In order to do that, I first have to solve for 10f plus 25 is equal to 105. Bring my 25 to the other side. 10f is equal to 80, so f is equal to 8. Now I need to substitute that in to my next expression that they gave me, 72 divided by f. So I'm going to do 72 divided by 8. And that final answer there is 9. For my final problem today, I have a word problem. So it says a music store has sold 3/5 of their hip-hop CDs, but 10 were returned. Now the store has 62 CDs in stock. How many were there originally? So there's a lot going on, so I have to understand the question. So the store is selling CDs. They sold some, not all of them. They sold 3/5 of whatever they had to begin with, but then 10 were returned. So I have to kind of keep my equation balanced. So I'm going to let x equal the number of CDs to start. So if I sold 3/5 of what I started with, there's my x. So that's what I sold. However, of those CDs that were sold, 10 were returned. So I have to subtract 10 because in the end, the store's not getting any profit from them because they were returned. And that equals, right now they have 62 in stock. So whatever happened kind of here on the left-hand side, whatever was sold and then returned is now equal to 62. So that's really the important thing. Let's go back and read our statement again. A music store has sold 3/5 of their hip-hop CDs, but 10 were returned. Now the store has 62 CDs in stock. How many were there originally? So it looks like I set my equation up correctly. So now again, I'm just going to solve for x. So I add 10 to both sides, and I have 3/5 x is equal to 72. Again, I can multiply by the reciprocal, or I can use my calculator, and 72 times 5 divided by 3. In the end, my final answer is going to be 120 CDs. That was my original CDs in stock.